Hello everyone, it is Cameron back here with another video about the types of errors on MCAT questions. And in this video I'm really hoping to focus on the different types of errors that I think you should be aware of when you're reviewing your practice exams. I always get a bit sad when I'm hearing somebody talk about their practice exams and they're usually taking exams pretty close and back to back, and their scores are kind of petering around the same thing. So maybe it's 498 and then 501 and then 497 and 502, and they're really not reviewing and thinking about the different types of errors that they're making and how they can make them better. And so I hope that after this video you will be able to categorize your errors and see how you can reduce them. And so I made a bit of a table here. This is a table of the three types of error that I think exist. The first one here is a test-taking strategy error. And what I mean by this is there were really clues that were in the passage, or there were clues that were in the question stem that could have helped you to get to the correct answer, but you didn't recognize them, or you didn't use that strategy. Maybe you didn't go back to a passage to actually reread something and make sure that you were choosing the correct answer. And so for these ones are really ones where you need to practice a lot of different questions to learn what type of test-taking strategy errors that you're making. And once you're cognizant of this, you'll be able to adjust for it going forward. The second type of error that I have is a fatigue error, and this is one that I think is talked about a bit less frequently, so I'm going to spend a bit more time on it. And what I mean by fatigue is as you're going through a block and getting to the later half of the questions, you start to get fatigued, maybe you're tired, maybe you're hungry, and because of that, you start making errors that you wouldn't normally make. Maybe you're not reading as carefully or something like this. And so for this, I'll actually give an example for myself. When I was taking the exam, I noticed that in the second half of the last block, I was making a lot more errors than I would usually make. And I went back to review my exams, and I found that I was taking a lot of answers A and answers B, and I wasn't choosing answers C and D as often. And I realized that I must have wanted to be done with the exam so much that I was kind of rushing through the questions, and I would read A or B and I would say, yep, that sounds like it could be right, and I would select it. And so once I was aware of this, I was able to adjust for it, and I was able to know that one, I needed to be a bit more careful when I was dealing with that second half of questions, and I also needed to make sure to read all of the answer choices fully to make sure that I wasn't falling into that trap. And once I did that, my score went back up a few points. And so the solution for this is really to be cognizant and aware of this fatigue coming on, and knowing that you might need to be a bit more alert, or that you might need to get a snack in between before that section to make sure that you're not getting hungry near the end of it. The last type of error that I'll touch on here is really the content review type. And for these, I think that these are what most people think of when they think of different error types. They think that it's mostly due to content review, and that's not the case. As you can see, there are different types of error, the two ones above it. I think another misconception about this one is kind of later on in studying, when I'm meeting with people, a lot of times they'll say, I don't think I really have content review issues anymore, and that is simply not true. It is not the case. For the test writers, this is not their first rodeo. And so when they're writing questions, they know that a lot of people have practiced a lot, and so they don't have a lot of errors that are falling into these two types. And so they know that they have to trip you up on content issues. What this means is not that they're asking you about simple concepts. They're going to be asking about things that are really on the line, that even experienced test takers are going to have difficulty navigating. So they'll give you an example of somebody that's right on the verge of a developmental stage, or they'll ask about the exception to the rule in the periodic table trends or something of the like. And so for this last issue type, if you're having content issues that are really due to nuances in the material, it is important to try to review them. So go through the UWorld passage that you're given. You're not always going to be able to find answers to these in the Kaplan books, but I think it's very important to be aware that these come up even later in studying, after you feel like you've done enough content review. So I do hope that going through these three different error types is helpful for you, And I hope that as you're going through your practice exams now, you'll have a very strategic way of going through categorizing and determining how you're going to solve it going forward. Please let me know if you have any questions about this that I can help with, and I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.